Welcome to Bridging Chicago.
Well, welcome back to the Bridging Chicago podcast. I hope that you have listened to part one of our season 8 episode with Jarryd Loyd and Walter Mendenhall here. If you haven't, make sure you go back and listen to that episode. In fact, go ahead and listen to the whole season so far because it's a lot of really great thoughts. And we've already learned a lot from these two, but we obviously want to talk about what they're doing, about their organizations. And so thank you for tuning in to part 2. Jarryd and Walter, thank you so much for what you've already shared. But obviously we want to talk about Loyd Co. We want to talk about Male Mogul Initiative. There was one thing that I was really, when I was doing some research for the episode, I was really interested in this single family office that it shared, because I was like, I've heard of a single family home. I've never heard of a single family office. So can you tell me about what that means? What is a single family office?
So a single family office is a investment firm that's dedicated to one family. So we don't, for instance, outsource our investment portfolio, or we have basically in-house accounting. We have a kind of a distributed team that focus strictly on the family. So that's what a single family office is.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's very interesting. I hadn't heard that before, so I was like, I definitely want to figure out what that is. But Loyd Co is a single family office, conviction-based financial firm. I loved this. You said bold builders of the future, and it's that bold word that really sticks out to you. But share with us about the mission of Loyd Co, about what that means, and sort of what that started as and how it's grown from there.
Yeah, that's a good question. So my sister and I started it in 2015. And the goal was, how do we create generational wealth? Not only for ourselves, but also be able to provide principles to others. And so that's kind of the origin story.
Okay.
And then fast forward, we really looked at really creating a more scalable model to really impact not just our family, but others. So that's essentially where we're going and what the future looks like for Loyd Co.
And how were you able to drill down to that? For you and Jewel, what kind of came about that made that important, and sort of did that go through phases, or were you kind of, this is what we want to do?
Phases for sure.
Okay.
Phases for sure. That first 1 to 6 year phase was, survival, right?
Yeah.
How do we do this? How do you build a team? How do you communicate with one another, two partners that are, elite in terms of their thinking. All of those things kind of have to integrate. So that was the foundation. Now we're moving more in terms of elevation. So how to be able to kind of scale our services to more families, impact more people. And our goal holistically is to develop at least a $10 billion economic impact company per year.
Wow. It's a lofty goal, but you talked about sort of the two elite minds. And I want you to unpack that a little bit, because, in the first episode, we talked about a little bit about the athletic mind and how you think differently because of that. But from a business perspective, tell me about the two elite minds, you and your sister coming together, and the difference that made, really, especially in starting this whole thing.
Is belief. Faith. I think that was the biggest thing. Jewel had a lot of faith in me in terms of, the vision of what we wanted to do together, more importantly. And then I had a lot of faith in her, being 7 to 8 years older, to just trust me with kind of directing traffic as she was able to kind of focus on her craft.
Yeah.
So that's really kind of what it boiled down to, was we call it a margin of trust. And, that has to be built.
Yeah.
But once you have that margin of trust, then a lot of things can accelerate. And we move a lot faster than most, I would say, firms or companies, because we have that margin of trust. So
it's so interesting working Jewel's season is going to start here pretty soon. And so, I'm sure that things change a lot for her during this time. And does that sort of change your role, or what you do day to day when it's like, okay, we're in season now, or she's in season now. I know that she's, life's going to be different for this next however many months.
Definitely, it does. Specifically about how much time she has.
Yeah.
In order to just maybe review things or discussions, or she's traveling all over the place. So it definitely does shift, and so it leaves me a little bit more kind of time to kind of assess, the things that the priorities that we really need to discuss, and the things that need to be shifted.
Yeah, I guess it forces you to do that in some ways. It's like, okay, what do we actually need to do now, and what can sort of wait?
Yes.
Yeah. We saw also that you have acquired Help with My Loan. Can you tell us about what that program was, your acquisition, and then what that means for you, or what you'll be able to do with that in the future?
Yeah. So we So as we think about scaling Loyd Co into the future, we really wanted to build, or we are building, an integrated wealth platform.
Okay.
That's going to be focused on financial services that can transform people's lives.
Mm.
So part of that is building a couple of buckets that we believe that will have a tremendous amount of impact for families, but also economic impact.
Okay.
And so lending is one of those buckets that we're really focusing on.
Okay.
So by acquiring a lending company via Help with My Loan, we're able to really kind of focus in and help hopefully scale that impact to lend responsibly, and then provide access to capital to entrepreneurs and people that we're passionate about.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. Walter, why don't you remind us of what Male Mogul Initiative is, why you started it, and sort of where you're at, because now it's a year later for us. Yeah. So tell us what's happened in the last year.
Yeah. So the Male Mogul is a social enterprise that consists of a nonprofit and for-profit entity that seeks to positively transform the way young men live and lead in their communities through leadership, entrepreneurship, and workforce development. And essentially, we're trying to solve 3 foundational problems that we feel plague the city of Chicago. The first one, 45% of African-American young men ages 18 to 24 are not in school or working. The second one, 80% of capital needs for Black and Brown entrepreneurs go unmet each year, which is $146 million annually in the city of Chicago. And the third one, 80% of gunshot victims here in the city of Chicago are African American. Mm-hmm. So we seek to solve this problem by using our community wealth building ecosystem. This is based on my hours of research and in my PhD studies, and also real life implementation.
Yeah.
Our community wealth building ecosystem consists of business incubation and acquisition. That's why we're partnering with Loyd Co, and we have an equity stake in Help with My Loan, and also a workforce agreement, finance, the things that we're doing through with Loyd Co in the financial service area and the platform service area, direct services, which is essentially our programming that's helping young people become asset managers with entrepreneurial mindset, and indirect services, having mentorship and people around them that's helped them to grow their ventures and the things that they manage, which in turns will create job creation and ownership by people in the community, particularly in real estate.
This partnership seems to have unlocked a lot of opportunity and potential. Sort of naturally maybe happened because of the friendship, but also like, what was it about each other's organizations that got you really excited and sort of made this happen?
I think it's alignment. I think we have, essentially the same mission, but we're going about it in a different way. I think if I think about it, I think, Loyd Co has a top-down approach. And I believe the Male Mogul Initiative have a bottom-up approach. And I think, I think the African proverb says, you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And I know, at least from the Male Mogul standpoint, Loyd Co just complements us perfectly. And I think we do the same thing with Loyd Co. So the partnership, and I think what he says, that trust and that faith, I think we definitely share that. And, that has helped us to grow in so much in a short amount of time.
Mm. You feel the same way?
Yeah, absolutely. It's alignment. I think he mentioned alignment. And he's coaching me on a lot of just alignment principles. And I think that it really does start with that. Having that alignment is important, because then it can build upon margins of trust that you're going to need to weather storms, because things don't always go perfectly, specifically around acquisitions. Okay, so alignment is huge.
You both also talked a lot about trust. I think, Jarryd, working with your sister so closely, not everyone could do that. So I'm like, it's always an interesting, whenever there's like these family dynamics that come into play when it comes to business or social, enterprise. It's always like, you have to have a special sort of relationship to be able to do that. But you both talked about trust. What is it about trust that's so important? And is that like heavily a part of your organization's mission, or is that more a personal thing?
So I would say it's a value, a family value.
Okay.
First and foremost. But we also talk about kind of the 3 layers of trust, because there's essentially 3 layers of trust that it's a guiding principle for our organization, or just family values. We kind of abide by those things. And so that helps put things more in perspective for us.
Yeah.
And I think, we bring it back to athletics. One thing I know about Jarryd is that when his back against the wall, he rises. His level of play rises. When the pressure is on, he does not panic. And I think it's just, and I think he could say the same for me. We've built a trust for, I don't know how long we've known each other. It's got to be about around 20 years now. 20 years plus. And I just think how we respond to adversity, our alignment, our principles, our faith, and I think all those things essentially build trust in time. I was thinking about it. We've been on this mission for a long time. We really didn't know what it was, how to do it. We kind of explored different things, but I think just through that time, he knows that I'm in it for the long run, and I think vice versa.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where that trust comes.
Yeah, it's so important. Jarryd, you also mentioned about lending, sort of better lending, smarter lending.
Mm-hmm.
And we all know in 2008 that wasn't happening, and we saw what happened there. What does that mean to you, sort of this healthier lending concept, and what part of your acquisition was to be able to do that? So what does that sort of mean, and what does that look like?
Yeah, it's a great question. So right now, currently, and this is small statistics, but 10 million plus businesses go unfunded per year, just because banks don't have the technology to underwrite untraditionally.
Okay.
So that's a huge number. So it's roughly about 87 billion in unmet capital needs.
Wow.
So it's a pretty large number. And when we looked at a lot of the issues and the problems with traditional lending, they're still using a 1960 system, which is the FICO score.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That system really doesn't translate into the 21st century businesses of today. Okay. And most, as we know, if we looked at Facebook doesn't have a lot of hard assets laying around. Yeah. But what they do have are intellectual assets, people, human capital, right? So how do you value that? So banks are still looking at businesses from the traditional lens of hard collateral, and their underwriting is quite screwed. Not screwed, but in terms of how they underwrite, it's skewed. And so it leaves a lot of the, I think, 21st century businesses behind that need access to capital because how they look at underwriting. So a healthy underwriting system today is using real-time data instead of looking at historicals, behavior-based psychometrics to look at the person behind the business, not just a traditional FICO score.
Yeah.
And last but not least, being able to do that fairly quickly within 5 minutes versus taking 90 days traditionally to underwrite. So
We're seeing that a little bit play out with TikTok, right? Because TikTok is an app. Yes, you can buy things in there, but it's just basically an app that people post videos on. But the algorithm is what's hanging up this whole TikTok issue with the selling and all this, because the algorithm has the value. If TikTok sells without the algorithm, the value is minimal. If it sells with it, it's huge. Does that kind of play into what you're talking about in the way that we're going to have to rethink how businesses, and not just businesses, but people who have the entrepreneurs, let's say, how businesses and entrepreneurs are valued?
100%. I think that's a great example. So a lot of what we saw in terms of the future of underwriting is algorithmic, using AI, using real-time data. Help with My Loan has been able to solve some of that, but with added value and some of the ideas that we're bringing to the table with it, that's where we really feel we can really scale and grow. The algorithm and underwriting quite differently is important.
Yeah. Walter, can you share with me what the Male Mogul Initiative has gained out of all of this information that he's been sharing? Like the men that you work with, that you're mentoring, that come into your program, what have they gained out of this partnership? And
I would even say what I've gained first. Exactly everything that he's saying is what I've experienced in real time. I remember going into a bank looking for a line of credit. I had over 6 figures in my business bank account, had a great credit score, and I was denied that line of credit. And I had no idea why I was denied. And, as I talked to Jarryd, as I got to learn more about, banking and FICO scores and credit scores, I saw from a real time how, lean, fiscally responsible businesses have a hard time accessing capital.
Yeah.
And essentially what, and why I think, we came together is that we wanted to solve it, from a, high place, but also from a grassroots level. And, what Male Mogul does, I believe in the value that it adds to what Loyd Co is doing is that it is really giving them the qualitative data, how we essentially transform under-resourced communities, how we really look into these small businesses, how we really fairly assess, how we mobilize people, ultimately for the goal of creating economic impact. I think that is valuable. I think it's scalable, and we're just appreciative for the partnership.
Yeah. A lot of big things happening. Jarryd, tell me I know we've talked about this a little bit, but like in a very tangible sense, where do you hope this goes? Where do you hope Loyd Co goes in 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is for you? But sort of those tangibles, what do you hope to see happen because of this organization?
So, like I said, our mission, we're really focusing on how do we create $10 billion of annual economic impact. And there's different layers of that. So our mission is really to kind of be the next generation, next generation financial integrated platform that's doing lending responsibly and innovatively, offering asset and wealth management to increase opportunities for folks that don't traditionally have holistic advice, and then also be able to provide platform solutions, which is being able to provide private credit opportunities or private market opportunities for folks that normally don't traditionally have that access. So those are kind of the 3 buckets we're focusing on. But our goal is also to own a bank at some point, and being able to kind of plug that into a banking system so that we can impact on a larger scale.
Do you think that today people who are sitting at home that are saying, I don't have access to the same kind of funds, the same kind of loan opportunities, the same options that you're talking about, do you think that people today who are sitting at home thinking this actually do have access and they just don't know it? Are there ways for people, just your average person, to access some of the things that you've been talking about and the opportunities that you want to build on, and the lines of credit, those kinds of things in the future, if there's someone who has an idea and they just don't feel like they have access yet?
That's a good question. So first, contact us. But it starts with education.
Yeah.
Holistic education. Holistic education, and some of it is that we think we have a good roundabout way of kind of educating folks on, some of the things you talked about. Mm-hmm. So it starts with that, getting real holistic education. Two, the answer is no. If private market access has been essentially not passed down,
okay,
for multiple reasons to the average person, whether it be regulatory purposes or the technology or whatever it might be. So that's what we want to create, is being able to offer those opportunities through tokenization, through new technology, so that it is accessible to folks that want access to it, and not just invest in a 401k.
Yeah.
I would say this, in cities, particularly in Chicago, I think there are some things you can do if you present yourself in the right. I think one of the things are CDFIs. There are a great amount of CDFIs, which are community development financial institutions. This is where actually our business got their first lines of credit, got some things. And essentially what a CDFI is that these are lenders that lend to under-resourced communities and under-resourced people. And they have more lenient bank strategies and banking, I guess you could say, underwriting. So if you are in the community, or if you are in a under-resourced community and you may need access to some type of capital, I would advise you to contact the CDFI and see what is needed in order for you to be eligible. Yeah. But it is far. And if you're in rural, somewhere, or you're in a smaller city, it's not as accessible. Yeah. But fortunately, being in the third largest city in the United States, that there are some financial institutions that will provide some type of capital.
And then for Male Mogul Initiative, I mean, you keep going, keep moving. What are we hoping for the future?
Yeah, I think for us, I think we have a transformational model with our community wealth building ecosystem that could transform communities, not only in Chicago, but nationwide and hopefully internationally. And we're just continuing to prove our concept. And with the technology that Loyd Co is bringing in, I think, essentially we are going to solve the three problems that I feel plague the city of Chicago, and make Chicago the ideal place to live, to learn, and to work.
Yeah. It's already a great place, but you can definitely get there.
Better
for
place.
Sure.
And yes, it is a great place, but there are some communities that it's not.
Yeah. We want to make sure we leave people with options of how to find you, follow you, interact with you. So, Jarryd, if you could let us know, if people are interested, how do they get in touch with Loyd Co?
Yeah, you can go to our website. It's www.theloydco.com. You can check out some information. We usually do some educational stuff on there as well, in terms of like newsletters, etc., just freely available.
Yeah.
So that's probably the best way to kind of learn a little bit more about Loyd Co.
Awesome. And for Male Mogul Initiative, how do we get in contact?
Yeah, so you can, our website is malemogulinitiative.org. You can call us at our office number at 312-620-5889. Also, we're on social media, IG, Instagram at Male Mogul Initiative, Facebook at Male Mogul Initiative. And
Awesome. Well, I know people are going to want to get in contact with both of you. I think, we've been really inspired. I was really excited when you reached out about coming back on, because I think we love to stay involved with the organizations and the people that we talk to, and so that's really important for us. So I was really excited for that. And then this has been amazing. I think this partnership, like, you can just tell it natural, it works, it's good, and it's going to be good for the community. And that's the best part, I think, is that it's going to be good for more than just you and your family. It's going to be good for Chicago and beyond, really. So thank you so much for your time and for sharing with us. We're going to put all their information on our website so that you can also go there and find it, www.bridgingchicago.com. You can find information about Loyd Co, the Loyd Family Foundation, as well as the Male Mogul Initiative. All of our guests, you can watch all our previous episodes. We're on season 8 now, so there's a lot for you to catch up on, but we're happy for you to do that. And of course, you can come back each week for our next episode of the Bridging Chicago podcast. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you.
Appreciate
so much.
it.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Bridging Chicago, as produced by the SATC Solutions Center. Nothing contained in this podcast shall constitute financial, investment, legal, and/or professional advice. No professional relationship of any kind is created between you and the podcast host or guest. You are urged to speak with your financial, investment, or legal advisors before making any investment or legal decisions. Furthermore, the opinions expressed in this podcast are not necessarily the opinions of SATC Solutions Center, SATC Law, or any of its employees. This podcast is created by the hosts and guests' individual capacities. All opinions on this podcast are or have been rendered based on specific facts, under certain conditions, and are subject to certain assumptions, and may not and should not be used or relied upon for any other purpose, including but not limited to, or use in or in connection with any investment purposes or legal proceeding.